Hello, this is Suzanne Clegg and Melinda Lee. Melinda Lee. And I'm excited to be interviewing her today because she is on the other side of her cancer journey, and she's graciously said she's happy to share with you, the viewers, the journey. And hopefully it will help you, give you hope, and it's a pretty amazing journey. So why don't you tell us when you were diagnosed with cancer and just a little bit about how it all began?
Yeah, I was originally diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, a breast cancer, in 2008. And I saw a couple of, I had second opinion. I saw a couple of different surgeons, and they wanted to put me on tamoxifen to reduce the size of the tumor. And because I had had a biopsy, which, if I knew then what I know now, I don't know if I would have done that, but it was actually a very useful thing because it identified exactly what the cancer was. And it was also measured at 2.7 centimeters. So we know how big it was. The tamoxifen was supposed to reduce the size of the cancer tumor in order to make it a better surgery when it was removed, say 3 months later. So I was supposed to go 3 months and then come back after I've taken it. So when I took the tamoxifen, I had what's known as tamoxifen-induced asthma. Now, I had never had asthma before, but it was really a frightening experience. My husband thought I was going to die, and we were kind of in a remote area on a hike. It was weird, crazy, scary. And so I went back and to the cabin where we were staying, and I called the surgeon's office and said, "Oh, this is happened to me." And so I was told just to take less of this drug. And I was like, not going to do that. In the meantime, I had gone to a naturopathic oncologist, and she put me on iodine, Lugol's iodine 2%. I think I started on 5%, but now I'm doing 2%. But at any rate, I took a lot of it on her recommendation. And after the end of 3 or 4 months, when I went back to the surgeon, the size of the tumor had reduced from 2.7 centimeters to 0.8 centimeters, a huge reduction.
And just the iodine.
That was just the iodine. And you research iodine if you're dealing with this. If you have a cancer that involves prostate, breast, brain, anything that causes a cyst or that then turns into a tumor, you need iodine. So at any rate, the doctor was ready to do the surgery. And I said, well, why wouldn't I just keep taking this iodine and see what happens? And when she found out I had not taken the tamoxifen, she yelled at me and, "Oh, you're going to be begging me for tamoxifen when you're all in pain and dying." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not going to ever see you again." Because you just don't yell at Melinda that way. And so she said, everyone has to come to me to have it cut out. And so I didn't go back there. And but I had other helps. It wasn't like I didn't do anything. And I have an alternative Chinese medicine doctor that I see, and who also has a PhD in biochemistry. So he's science and he's the other thing too. And he worked with me. And after about 2 years, I had nothing. The tumor was gone. I was clear. And so that was all a good thing. And I did other things. I watched my diet, was careful about what I was eating and exercising and so on and so forth. So then in 2017, the fall of 2017, I took a fall. I tripped on a sidewalk at night in town and broke my elbow. And I never had broken a bone ever before. It was kind of unusual for me. So at any rate, within a couple weeks after that, this tumor just exploded. I mean, I grew a new tumor. It just went nuts. And by the time I went to got home, I was traveling at the time. When I got home and made an appointment, saw a doctor, sent to another doctor. So I saw a different breast cancer doctor. And she did some measurements, and it had exploded to 17 by 20 centimeters, which is, pretty big area of my chest. And so she wanted to have this other test done, and the insurance, they were arguing about it and so forth. And in the meantime, I was having a stressful 2018 because we were getting ready to move, and I had a big house to reduce, and so I was busy and I never did anything. Then we got moved in the summer of 2018, and then I kind of scooted through the fall, and I didn't feel well, and I knew I was in trouble. So in February of 2019, I decided I had to do something. I lived in a different place, so I didn't have any doctor anymore or anybody to go to. But I had a few years earlier, I had read Bill Bengston's book, Hands-on Healing, about
The energy cure.
Yeah, the energy cure. Is that it? About the, about cycling and so forth.
Image cycling. It's a technique that Bengston uses to
the spinning, like Suzanne does. And I tried to figure out how to do it on my own, and I was not successful. And and the reason I wasn't successful is I was putting way too much focus on it. I paid too much attention of my intention.
Yeah, you don't hunker down and do it. You actually,
I didn't let
let it
go.
go.
Yeah. And so anyway, I had talked to Suzanne in her 15-minute phone call thing at one point, and that was some years before all of this explosion of this tumor. And so I thought about her, and I contacted her in February of 2019. I said, will you please teach me and my husband how to cycle? And so we did that over Zoom. And, I learned really quickly because the first day that we did it, I was like, Zoom, and away we went. And probably in a month.
And you're smart and you're intuitive, so you were already kind of tweaking it and going, oh, if I do it this way, it's this way, and the other way.
Yeah.
And you were already refining it very quickly.
Yeah, very fast. So about a month later, that was when the tumor started to really push out, and it got kind of red, like a volcano. And so, and I knew about the Bengston experiments with the mice and how their tumors ulcerated and then finally healed. And I thought, that's what's happening to me. I really did. And we continued to work with Suzanne, and then she brought in other people to help do the cycling, people that wanted to learn how to cycle that had contacted her. And then pretty soon I had my own group, and she turned me loose with them, and we would meet once a week, and they would cycle with me and cycle for me. And so by summertime, the tumor actually did start to break open. And when that happens, there's a medical term, it's called fungigate. And so it was doing that. And I thought,
it was
okay.
big, the size of your fist, right?
It was, oh yeah.
Bigger.
Oh yeah.
At least the
big. Yeah, the part that was coming out. And so anyway, in October of 2019, Suzanne was out our way and came and visited us. And I saw her for probably about 5 weeks that you were around. And she was, visiting national parks and things in our area while she was there. And it was fun, huh?
National parks, but just how you responded to the treatment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It felt like it was shrinking every day.
It was good. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, the tumor didn't like you. Seriously.
I think it didn't.
So anyway, and by then, it was really opening up. So in 2020, we had COVID, and I was trying to manage this wound, if you will, on my chest. I didn't really know how to bandage it, how to take care of it, because it, is weeping, and it was a big mess, big mess. So I contacted my Chinese medicine doctor and said, you got to help me here. I need to learn how to take care of this. Who can you refer me to that will help me with this? And so he did. He referred me to a nurse practitioner that he knew. And she talked to me and recommended that I go to this clinic in Mexico. It's called Baja Medgate, and it's in Tijuana area. And the director's an American woman who had breast cancer herself. And this nurse told me that she would send her pancreatic cancer patients and her breast cancer patients there because there were good results. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. And even though it was COVID, we managed to cross the border and go down there in the summer of 2020. And they did things. And I'm sure when they saw this mess on my chest, that they thought that I wasn't going to make it. They thought I probably had cancer all over my body. But the first scan that I had in the summer of 2020, there were no metastases. It was all right here.
Do you want to aside of what you've learned about metastasis and cycling?
Yeah, that cycling can help keep cancer from metastasizing. And that's all I can really say about that. But there's studies and things that they're doing on this. And yeah.
And that fit with your experience, that you had this big conjugating tumor, but it wasn't spreading throughout your
And
whole
it wasn't
body.
painful. It was never painful.
It was just drippy and messy.
It was a big mess. So they did teach me how to take care of it. They had a super nurse. She was a surgical nurse, but she was really good and how to keep it clean and, infection, all that kind of stuff. But they also wanted to help me not have cancer. So we tried some different things, and they wanted to try low dose chemo, which I did. I did a few of those, and it wasn't helping at all. And I didn't feel right. There was some other stuff too that we tried that was a bit.
And your doctors agreed that it wasn't.
Yeah. So then I said, I do energy testing, like with, I use my pendulum. And so I asked if I could just test anything and everything before it was given to me. And they said, okay, no problem. So I did. And we just stopped a lot of that stuff because it was making me weak and it was making me sick. And I'll try anything, but when it's not right, it's not right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we went on, and finally the director of the clinic and the doctor recommended that I see another doctor in the San Diego area. The director of that clinic is connected with lots of doctors all over the world. She keeps up on everything. So it's, she's really up with stuff. And I said, okay. So I went to the doctor who is integrative and holistic doctor in the San Diego area. And he wanted to do some low dose chemo. And I think I might have done one, maybe two with him. And I was like, this is not right. And I told him I wanted to test everything myself, which he allowed me to do. And then he also referred me to this other doctor who's an interventional radiologist. And so she, at that point, this whole thing was flat, was into my chest. In fact, at one point, I had a small area.
Flat in a good way or flat in a bad way?
Well, everything was gone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good way.
The whole breast was gone. It was as if I'd had a mastectomy, really. Mm-hmm. And there was one point when there was about that much rib showing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of my ribs was bone. When that happened, I was like, what in the heck? I think that was like October 1st or something of 2020. What year was that? 2021. 2021. And so anyway, I was like, well, that's something. But what the interventional radiologist did was she did an arterial ablation, which is where the blood vessels that are feeding the tumor are
Ablated.
destroyed, ablated, yeah. And at that point, I kept testing myself, like, what percentage of the tumor is left? What percentage? And at that point, it was about 10%. And it was just mostly on the edges. Everything else was gone. And
So you're using your muscle testing as guidance.
yeah, as guidance, yeah, for me anyway. And so she did the ablation, and it was followed up 3 weeks later with a cryoablation, which is where whatever was left was frozen off. But the first ablation, most everything just fell off. It was done. And then it was a matter of healing. So originally, well, when I went to Mexico, they had a surgeon that, would come to their clinic, and he was recommending that he could do a surgery, and then he would do a skin graft, and it would be huge, and it would take 6 or 7 hours of surgery and that kind of thing. And that was the only way I was ever going to get it taken care of. But that wasn't right. Didn't feel right for me. But the interventional radiologist said, oh, because I said, what am I going to do about skin now? Because I've just got this open wound. And she said, oh, that's no problem. You'll grow skin back. And I have. It's taken a long time, but hey.
Skin's back.
Yeah. And I'm not the same. I don't have breasts. But
you don't have a tumor either.
I don't have a tumor. I'm still alive. And
so tell us about your cycling and how you felt like the cycling guided you or helped you or opened you or changed your brain or.
Oh yeah, it changes your brain. Definitely rewires your brain.
And if you rewire your brain, different things can happen in your body. Right?
You develop new
neuronal pathways.
Yeah, pathways. And I mean, that's absolutely what I believe. You can just feel that. And I know when I started cycling with you, I would get headaches. And you know what? I just figured, okay, what's happening? I don't know. But now I know. I think I was just rewiring. Yeah, just rewiring.
I tell people to go faster, and that usually makes the headache go away. I might not have told you to do that back then.
Maybe, but it just, I would get.
But that makes sense too.
Yeah.
You can actually feel it kind of like remolding things.
And I continue to cycle a lot. I belong to a number of different groups of cyclers that, do Bengston cycling and meet on Zoom. And everybody is cycling all together. You really feel this energy, or whatever it is, you feel it. And it's amazing. And every Friday morning, my husband and I go to Facebook to do Suzanne's Facebook group.
So he puts his hands on you so that you're having hands-on technique, and then
and we cycle with the group. And when I cycle with your Facebook Live on Friday mornings, I feel all the people that are there. You can feel that, and of course I feel you. And a lot of times you and I have the same images popping up. It's so bizarre.
But there's an objectivity to it that we're both picking up. With our imagination.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So so I do all of this cycling with everybody else, and people are cycling for me. I have my intentions, but I've really learned how to cycle and just let that go. And I've had a lot of things manifest because of that. Because of the cycling. So anyway, that's my story.
Okay, good. Well, what's interesting or just what I love about about you, and that is just how much you've listened to your own inner guidance, because you do go into the institutions, and sometimes that's exactly the perfect thing to do. And I've met so many cancer people for whom those procedures are the exact perfect thing to do. But when they're not, they're not. And there's not you've been able to follow your own nose, or just your own, like, well, doesn't make sense, or not just from your head, but just like everything in your whole being was saying no. And so you didn't do that. And when it said yes, you did do that, and you were just toggled along. Yes, no, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little hard-headed or stubborn, I mean, I do. But I also think that with cycling, I mean, you really have to be open to the opportunity for healing. I mean, it's there.
Yeah, and you said you never really thought this tumor's that covering your chest, and you're like, but I'm gonna live. I just have to manage it. You were kind of matter of fact about it.
I was.
You didn't get into the drama of that. I'm sure you had times of depression, certainly times of fear, certainly times of sadness that this was what you were doing 3 times a day, changing that.
Yeah, changing my bandage just 3 times a day. I mean, it was
hard.
It was a mess. Yeah, and but with fear, it's a little harder with depression, but with fear, cycling really.
Cycle with
yeah.
fear.
If you have
You're supposed to cycle when you have strong emotions. So fear is a strong emotion. So you cycle, and it lasts a fraction of the time. But you haven't suppressed it. You've just been with it, and so it actually becomes a force for healing rather than, either just flattening you out or you suppressing it and going inside you. Somatically.
Yeah, and because fear would be like, well, am I making the right choice here? Yeah. Well, I'm this deep into it, I'll just keep going. Or whatever it is. Depression is a little different, but I think the cycling really, that just, it's really good for you. And you develop new pathways, neural pathways to get around those depressed pathways. I mean, that's what's going on in your brain. I know that you talk about chemicals and stuff, but
I like it because it's sort of kind of magic. And so if you're depressed and you don't see the way out, you don't really have a way to get in its way either, because you can't manage it. Well, it's not this, you're not really able to manage it. And so you just do it because why not? And then you feel better.
And if you're the patient, you really need to do the cycling. You need to learn how to do that. But you also really need other people to cycle for you. And the hands-on is great, I like that, but you don't have to have hands-on. It doesn't, it works all the same.
Yeah, you just need to touch in some way, either through intention or through touch. And I would say the right amount of touch depends on the day. It does matter, but it's
yeah, you kind of know when you've had enough in a session, and it could be 5 minutes or it could be 5 hours, I guess.
I know,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you, viewers, for watching this. I'd love to hear what you think about her story. You can type in the comments or just get in touch with us. Okay, great.
Thank you.